what does regenerative finance or regenerative self even mean in a Dharma perspective? That's like I was like, oh, I'm trying to take notes. There's so many gems, Dexter, that you just said, because it's it's hard because one thing that we need to acknowledge is that we are starting where we're starting, right? So, I mean, you could say that people on in the West, in the Bay Area, for example, we looked at research around how if everyone in the world lived like people in the Bay Area, the world would be heated by 4 to 6 degrees already. And so there's always we're always situated in this, okay, there's still a north and south kind of divide thing, and people often want kind of like, I'm just reflecting on the prompt that Sun has around, okay, can we pick like a project to work on in a location? I mean, personally, given that I'm Malaysian, and we actually live in the same neighborhood in Malaysia, Sun and I, and have gone to the same Buddhist temple. So it felt like, okay, yeah, I mean, I can imagine myself doing that. And then I'm like, well, what would I imagine like my friends here in the crypto space would be willing to? It's still a big unknown because I feel like the discussion is still happening. Like, how do you be situated in this world where everything is already financialized? It felt like it's not. I mean, part of my startup in the past was looking at how financialized our world currently already is. Every house that you sit in is under a mortgage, even down to the level of your utility bill. That is actually, in a way, quote unquote, a backing or a collateral for like higher and higher abstraction of financial instruments. And crypto is entering that space now. Like, so it feels like for me, like, it's also important for Dharma practitioner to not be ignorant to the financialized world that we are situated in now, and then realize how can we actually transform that. And I guess this is where Sun knows this. Like, I grew up in a Taoist Mahayana Buddhist family in Malaysia, and then went on to practice Theravadan Buddhism on my own. And then I don't personally know like the Tantra path very well, and so now I'm like also looking into that as a way of like, okay, given that I find myself in the crypto Web3 space, and I'm trying to not just use the approach of like, well, if I reject something, push something away, that that will be fine. I mean, I do believe that that actually works for a slice of the population. And then Ahmed and I, like, he's hosting me in Miami Beach now, and I see like the people around us, and I'm like, but I don't know if it will work for people here right now. Like, to ask them to just go to a monastery. I mean, it could come in time. I still hope that for everyone to be able to go to retreats. And I also wonder, like in people's life, like quote unquote financial is how you kind of enter their life, right? And I wonder what the if we can enter Dharma in financial too. So, there's a lot more to that design that I hope to share with y'all in the future. And, part of that is I created this thing called Project Calvin, and it has to also do with that, the like looking at subjective and objective and how to, bring those together so that we don't just fall into, ending up objectifying everything, including what is most precious to us, like the Dharma. But also we don't end up collapsing to the space of like, okay, as long as we keep the internal good, then everything is good. I think like for me, what sila or morality or the practice is about how can you do both, being in the world, which is what engaged Buddhism is about, um, and also be able to practice. And so yeah, like we can we can nerd out about like how I'm looking at doing that. I hope to do that with you, Klaus, Ahmed, Bishoy, Max, and anyone else. Yeah, like about how to use things like eigentrust algorithm to be able to get people's subjective value to be what creates their time in the economy. Like I say that to follow up on my initial thinking around, okay, there's clock time, and that's always like an objective, like uh, given to us, like seemingly objective anyway. But then there's always like this internal time, temporalities that's happening, and that is as important too. So because that's also where Dharma lives right now, and so how can we let that flow out and let economy serve that? Because now, like the reason why we're even trying to make that legible, the subjective one, is so that we can honor that inner out time. And so I see it as like, Shinzen, who was a meditation teacher of mine, was like, okay, well, for his teacher, Sasaki Roshi, it would be, okay, if you can imagine zero. I really like zero. So like zero is for them like analogous to awakening for them, given that it's connected to shunya, shunyata, uh, void or emptiness. However, the West had brought the mathematics of zero from the East at the same period that was also destroyed in where it came from. So the spirituality of zero never got to the West. And so for me, it's like, how can we not repeat this now? Like now that we have a way to maybe bring Dharma to the West. It's not the first time, but I think this is the first time the financial, I think, can be potentially integrated. That's still up for design, not like in the past. Like, where capitalism was designed by Adam Smith and his friends in Calvinistic Scotland, like during that Enlightenment period. So I will rest my case here for now. Thank you. Thank you for all your attention.